using our sense using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. World peace through individual strength. Welcome back to Your Best Feeling podcast. World. This is Pago One. Individual strength. Today is Monday, June 21st, 2021. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Good afternoon. We've got a great topic for you today. Spoilers. Spoilers about what? Spoilers about life. You know? On your No Nonsense podcast, your only No Nonsense podcast, the Best Feeling Network. Welcome back to Pal Go On. Feel the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. And remember, you do not sit on your legs. Today is such a great topic. We're starting a little bit later today. Had quite the evening. There have been a lot of changes going around, but last night we went out, met up with some new friends and some old friends. But every day, 5:30 in the morning, I want to make this thing your podcast early in the morning. Let's do it, guys. Best Feeling Podcast. So over the weekend, remix. Over the weekend, I got to spend some time with some familia, as it was Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, everybody. Happy belated Father's Day. Have you been able to place the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times? It was Father's Day. I wonder what you guys were up to. What did you do on Father's Day? Were you able to feel the rainbow arches? Were you able to place the weight of the body down in front of the spine and into the rainbow arches and feel the front of the shins? Remember, you do not sit on your legs. Don't place that weight on that fleshy part of the back calves. I'm gonna do a body mapping session right now. Before we move forward, let's stick true to the name, the Best Feeling Podcast, guys. Welcome. I invite you to join me as we place the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all of the times. Feel the front of the shins. Don't make me say it again. And remember that you do not sit on your legs. Remember to allow all these words enter one ear and out the other. And grab the meanings that make sense to you. Wherever you are, wherever thou art. Wherever you are, wherever thou art. Speaking of which, where are you right now? Maybe you're at the fair. I hear they're opening up the fairs again. Let's get back to normalcy. Normal life. Shout out to Void Walker. Not only for having a Father's Day, for being among the streamer friends who have children who are fathers. Happy Father's Day, Void Walker. And thank you for the follow. Shout out to Void Walker, Secret Skin, my Mr. Impossible, all the followers on Twitch right now. And on YouTube, shall we see you follow on there? We would appreciate that if you would drop us a follow as we continue to strive towards this perfect morning. Supercharge the day with your Best Feeling Podcast, your Best Feeling Network. How go on? I just broke out into full ad mode as you're placing the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. Now you're listening for 7 different things in the room today. You're shifting your awareness from my voice to maybe the ruffles in your jacket, or maybe the crinkling in the seat as you adjust your body, and remember that you do not sit on your legs. You quite possibly may need to adjust your body to feel the wonderfulness of the feeling in the front of the spine delivering the weight of the body out front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all other times. You might see me doing it a little bit too. A lot of directions, but you have a lot of bones. Slowly but surely, it all meshes into one. You start to see which muscles are required as you're placing the weight of the body down in front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. And remember that you do not sit on your legs as you're feeling the front of your shins. A lot of stuff, they say, or is it? It's just a pathway. Yeah, you might notice that your body shifts around when you feel the weight of the body on front of the spine. Or remember that you do not sit on your legs. You might feel your body shift. Why is that? Becoming aware of these things actually activates specific muscles on their own. Now, which muscles? Not muscles that you usually associate with conscious behavior, but more like balanceal muscles, tiny little microscopic muscles maybe in your body. Make small adjustments, almost like tickling your body. You have to move something on something else to tickle it, right? To kind of stimulate it. There has to be some kind of sensation, some kind of stimulation for you to be able to recognize that it's being used, right? Or that there is some contact being used, some kind of contraction of your muscles are being used. Tiny sensations involved with simply becoming aware. It's like, hey, where's the weight of the body? Is it on the front of the spine? Kind of rubs a little. You can think of it as like some muscles like softly rubbing that side from all parts of the body that are pulling. Hey, feel the front of the spine. Feel the front of the spine. How does your body know that it's feeling the front of the spine? Well, it sends small electrical signals there. And those signals reflect and inform the body of the presence, the existence of certain things. It's not even doing anything yet, right? As we're placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all of the times, we're not consciously trying to move the spine in any sort of way, right? Simply becoming aware of it. And as you do, just the same way with walking, how you're not thinking about each individual step, or if you skateboard, if you snowboard, you're not thinking about going in that direction, like you're not trying to push yourself, but rather you intend to go there. You place it into your awareness that you want to go over there. And so your body makes all these micro movement shifts so that your body does it automatically, right? Does your body have an autopilot? Well, of course it does, silly. Think about when you're drinking, think about when you're walking and talking, think about while you're multitasking. Quote unquote multitasking, right? Your body does plenty of things on autopilot, especially motor things like walking around. Speaking, you can walk and talk at the same time. You leave that walking on autopilot. You're not thinking about taking each individual step as you're conversing with your homies while you're walking around the mall or walking around the park or the lake, right? As you're jogging, you're not thinking about each individual step, but rather keeping your awareness that you want to keep moving forward. Our body has an autopilot like that. So you just got to use that for this front of the spine as you're feeling the weight of the body in front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Now you might say, Herbie, why does it matter that that happens? Why does it matter that we have an autopilot mode? For human sake, for your logic's sake, for your ability to be convicted with things. As a human being, you want as much proof as possible so that you can focus all of your energy on staying on that path. You want as much proof that that path's the right path, or what you're doing is the right thing. We want as much proof as possible as human beings so that we can funnel and kamehameha our entire spirit into one direction. We only know that it's proper. We only know that it's worth putting our entire energy into something should we have enough proof that it is worth it. So as you're placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times, are you thinking it's magic, or are you thinking that it is part of the design of human beings? Is it magic? Like hocus pocus? Wah-pah! You are, feel the front of your spine into the rainbow arches. It just works for some reason. Wah-pah! Is that why? It just works for some reason. Or is it more described and more piggybacked off of another part that we already are very familiar with as human beings? Is it, feel the front of your spine and then rainbow arches, and that you do not sit on your legs? Is that just like, it just works because it's like funny meditation things? Or is it that your whole body wants to do this and has an entire propensity to be autopilot in the physical realm that we should be using in a different way? Is it magic, or should we just be redirecting it? Magic, or should we just be repurposing it towards the right thing? as you're placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. Is the fact that you can snowboard in one direction and keep balanced and then shift your weight so that you can maneuver and turn on the snow, is that magic? Or is it micro coordinations? Feeling better in your body, is it magic or is it micro coordinations as we're placing the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times? Why? Spoilers. Why? Spoilers, spoilers. There is something to do in life. Spoilers, there is a way to deliver weight in the body. Spoilers, there is a way to feel better in life. Better than sex. As you're placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Why? Because it's always there for you. And you're like, my whole life. You're like, well, I mean, I haven't been doing it my whole life. So, I mean, what's the big deal? What's the big deal, Herbie? You could still function. You could still live your life. You could still do all of those things. I didn't know those things. Okay, well, tell that to your beta back as it starts breaking as you get older. As you've been using it for so long. Your little body as you were younger was able to handle our incorrect usages of these. You know, it's like, oh, Herbie, you're good. Like, you'll recover because, like, the whole body's working so hard to push everything back into place. But you didn't even need to. All that energy that could be used on, like, focusing and doing stuff in the world was focused on just repairing your body because you're just abusing the hell out of it. But as we look at the design and start rolling the car on the wheels and not the side, not trying to function the car using its doors as wheels. Same thing here. Not trying to place the weight of the body on the back of the spine where it does not belong, where you might break yourself. And then all these muscles are going to like stiffen, and you're going to have all these subluxations, and you're going to have all these compensative muscles that, because you're placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine, you're going to have all these compensating muscles that end up hardening back there to support it because there's nothing because you're placing weight back there and something needs to support it. So you get all these muscular tensities over there to compensate. Whereas the front of your spine's chilling there like, can I do my job yet, guys? It's just like floating there, being like held by these tight muscles back there, like back there behind the freaking spine. All these muscles like, and the front of the spine's like, oh, whoa, guys, can I just do my job? You know, in the back of the spine's like, so is it magic? Well, I mean, is science magic? Kinda. Is chiropraction magic? I mean, why not? Why the hell not? Spoilers, everything's true. Spoilers, you're not wrong, but you're wrong. That's the world. That's the nature of the world. As we break away from the front of the spine here. So one last time, if you would please join me as you're letting the words enter one ear and then travel and pass through the other. Are you allowing yourself to feel the weight of the body at the front of the spine? I invite you to take a moment with me. Clear your thoughts. What do you mean by that? No one tells you what that means. Clear your thoughts. Not on Palgo On. On Palgo On, we say clear your thoughts, as in place your attention on placing the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Feel the front of the shins, and then remember, you do not sit on your legs. I invite you to place your attention onto the weight of the body being placed into the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. And I invite you to feel the front of your shins and to also always remember that you do not sit on your legs. Never, 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 never. It's not what they're designed for. Look at that diagram. You see how your legs are just floating, your hip joints right there? Like floating. We float down here. As your sit bones, those two rainbow arches, as we're feeling the weight delivered down, following this blue path, split, cross, create a rainbow arch into the sit bones down here, which eventually make contact with the seat that you're on. And remember that you do not sit on your legs. Float your legs as you feel it from your shins. Spoilers. What do we mean by spoilers? Spoilers. As in, with the world in chaotic array, chaos and disarray, anarchy has supplanted tradition. Listen to all these headlines. World's on fire. Spoilers. Spoilers for what? What do we need right now? Spoilers. What do you mean by spoilers, Herbie? As in, we need spoilers on life. What's the point of all this stuff? As in, people are looking for direction. There's anarchy and disarray because people are looking for meaning. And with their short life, when you feel like there's no meaning, you're going to go off the wall. Gotta look for some meaning. Now, this doesn't mean that if they find some meaning, they're not going to change. Humans are liquid creatures. 75% water, in fact. Humans are liquid creatures. Born to adapt. Our best thing is that we adapt. In fact, first spoiler of the day. What is a point of life? What is a point of life? What should we search for? What do we like? What are we attracted to? What makes us tick? What drives us forward? What is the main force between all human beings? What is it? Why do we need to know? What is it and why do we need to know? What is that main driving force for all human beings? Overcoming suffering. Spoiler number one. World's not about getting what you want. It's about overcoming suffering. As in any specific discrete amount of money, for example. $1 million. Is that enough? $1 billion. Is that enough? $5 trillion. Is that going to be enough? For what exactly? What's the spoiler of life? People want to be happy. Spoiler number two, people want to be happy. Spoiler number one. Spoiler number one is that people want to overcome suffering. That's the commonality between us. So that's what we look for. I'm just going to give it to you straight here. That's what we're looking for. You're looking for strength, right? You're looking for strength in the world. So how do you find strength? By finding the unifying lowest common denominator across your entire life, across different things, jobs, work, friends, relationships, romantic, and all across all those things. Finding the common denominator of something you can function between all of those things so that you can continuously work on that lower thing, which is then applied to those other things in your life. So that you're constantly working on something and it doesn't feel like you need to supplant yourself or uproot yourself every time you're going into a new situation. You need this underlying girder across all these different things in your life. You need one underlying girder you can focus on. People, and what is that? My friends, thank you for being here. But what is that? What do you think it is? What do you think is that underlying girder? And Pao go on. I mean, this episode is called Spoilers. So here's a spoiler. Spoiler number one. What is that underarching girder? Is that all humans want to overcome suffering. It's not just the fact that there is suffering. It's the relationship between the suffering and you. It's not just the fact that there's suffering in the world. It's the fact that we can overcome it and that we are equipped to overcome it. People will be like, oh, well, people are poor. People are starving. How do we overcome that? Without enough money, we got to spread the money around. How do we overcome that? No. Individually, usually emotional and personal, usually hidden, usually on the inside realm. People are equipped, no matter the area in the world, you are equipped to overcome suffering. That is what we all have underlying girder. That is our underlying girder, is that we want to overcome suffering. There may be people starving in the world. That's not what we're talking about here, because that actually will be addressed with everybody doing this individually. Everybody trying to overcome suffering. Why is that important? That's spoiler number one. Everybody's here to overcome suffering. That's spoiler number one. What we want, you'll see it everywhere. You'll see it in media. You'll see it in Twitter. You'll see it in YouTube. You'll see it on if anybody watches CNN, you'll see it everywhere. As in, what do people look for? What gets the clout? What do people gravitate towards? What do people end up liking? You might be looking at the Twitter sphere and wouldn't be alone to be confused. Be like, how come some things get canceled, some things don't? And we're looking for this model, right? We're looking a model to apply to the world to see which one's correct so that you can also engage with it, right? We want to love life. We want to love life, not fear death. We want to love life. Which is also why that phrase, loving life versus death fearing, life loving versus death fearing, which is one of the reasons why it is such a prominent and important concept, because it is the philosophy towards overcoming suffering. And what is the one common thing between all humans is that they will have suffering. Why do you like funny people? Because they overcome suffering. Why do you like strong people? Because they can prevent you from getting suffering, or they can help you with suffering. They can punch someone out who's going to make you suffer or something. Why do people like dancers, and why do people like singers and all this kind of stuff? They overcome suffering. Dancers overcome suffering physically. They show that they're physically capable. And if they're dancing, they sure aren't suffering, usually, right? No wonder people gravitate towards them. They're like, oh, wow. It's like if you're with them, whenever you're with this person, you can deal with all suffering. That's amazing. I'm going to be around that person all the time. Now, you get into an issue when that kind of thing, that kind of magnetism works in the world where most people are living in a world where that magnetism is so prevalent, where you could be charismatic by being life-loving and being someone who can overcome emotional suffering at all times. You get a lot of people who gravitate towards that, but there's a danger in those people not having their own mentality ordered, and if they still see relationships and with other human beings and sex as the utmost goal, then their ability to overcome suffering can easily be corrupted. So as we're looking for something to overcome suffering, that's spoiler number one, right? Like, what the hell are we looking for in the world? Spoiler number one, overcoming suffering. That's what people want. That's what we gravitate towards too. People who can help us find out how to do that, whether it be emotionally, what if they're making jokes or something, able to solve problems. But it's not the problem solving. It's not necessarily just a mathematical problem solving. This is why the intellectuals are going to intellectualize their way out of happiness and intellectualize our country into the ground. It's because it's not necessarily, they overlap, but it's not necessarily that you have money. That's the good thing. Or it's not necessarily that you can solve math problems. It's not necessarily that you're funny. It's not necessarily that you're tall and strong. It's what do those things mean? You can have a relationship with those things that cause you to overcome suffering. And that's what we're talking about now. That's what people are really looking for. That's why it's so hard to look at, because we're not looking at a thing, but rather a relationship with something. We're looking at we used to be looking at like, oh, wow, he has talent. Oh, wow, he has money. Oh, wow, he can talk well. He sings well. Oh, wow, he's super huge and strong. That's great. On its own, just like on its own. We used to look at it like, wow, those things are great. I want those things. Why? Secretly, it's because we wanted sex or we wanted a good mate. That's secretly what we actually wanted deep down, because we didn't have a better way of overcoming suffering as we do now. So in the past, we're looking at those things like, wow, I like those things. I like being dancing's cool. Why? I don't know. Like, wow, he's big and strong. I'm attracted to that. Why? I don't know. Wow, he's got a lot of money. I'm turned on by that. Why? I don't know. How helpful is that? Not helpful. In reality, the reason why you like those things is because it helps you overcome suffering in some way, shape, or form. Now, human beings are like, do we have free will? No, dude, you don't. To a degree, you can shift your awareness around, right? You can shift your awareness around. But we all are just trying to overcome suffering, right? And when you finally do wake up and you find Pal Gohan, by that time, you've already had a whole life behind you of all this stuff you can work on, of stuff you can reap the benefits of how to overcome suffering, because you've gotten here today, right? You amazing godlike creature, you godly creature, you're here today, so you overcame suffering all the way to this point. Now, let's not get lost now. Let's not get distracted. Let's make sure that we keep on that. What we're looking for is how to overcome suffering. Yes, we love all these outside things, like these outward expressions of these suffering, of like people dealing with the world, right? Like dancing, singing, all these sorts of things, right? Having lots of money. Like they're engaging with the world in ways that are quote unquote successful. So we're following them. I mean, why do we even follow successful people, quote unquote? Because you're thinking you would get something that would help you overcome suffering. Why do I say that humans don't have free will? As in, what humans have is suffering, right? When you get out of the womb, you're crying. What humans have in common all the time is suffering. As in, everybody's experienced suffering, so everybody wants to overcome suffering. So what I mean by having no free will, as in, you got all this suffering that was like basically inherited to you as a child. You were an innocent child born to messed up families, right? Born to a messed up world. So you have all of these sufferings in your brain already that, like, dude, you were a baby at the time. And you're just like, let alone today, you're already absorbing all this information around you, right? When you go to the family parties, how many faces do you see a day? How many things do you read a day? And that's just consciously all that information. It's insane. It's mind blowing how much information that you are ingesting a day. And that's, and that's not even including subconscious information and unconscious pattern development that you're experiencing in your head. It's crazy. Every second is such a blessing. You see, you know? So when you finally wake up and you finally find Pao Go On and you place the weight of the body in the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times, you have a pantheon and an endless supply of not only today, but history in your head and history in your body of suffering that drives you, things that bother you. You didn't choose those things. It was inherited to you. Like a will. Just, you were born into the world. You can't help but experience it. And then you can't help but feel suffering. And what do you want to do now? You want to avoid that suffering all the time. That's what we all want to do. So what I mean by not having free will, as in, spoiler number 3, there's no free will. As in, you're blessed. You're inherited all this suffering. And then you just spend the rest of your life trying to get away from it or trying to solve more of it. And it makes you feel so good because it is so important to you. And how do you know it's important to you? Because you were suffering. Something made you suffer so much that you found value in this thing. Everybody's trying to reduce that suffering. The suffering is different to everybody, so they end up going into a different direction. But we're all designed in the same way to be able to be working on that suffering, to be overcoming that suffering. So it looks different on the outside because the amount of suffering given to you at that specific vector in the universe is going to be unique to you. But our design as human beings is the same in the sense that we want to overcome suffering. Spoiler number 1. Spoiler number 2, we want to be happy. Spoiler number 3. Let's say, spoiler number 3, you don't have free will. You got free will of awareness for sure. But you ever hear the phrase, if they knew better, they would do better, right? When it comes to people like aggressing on you. Chill out, bro. If they knew better, they would do better. You know? And isn't that always the case? Don't you always just operate within what you know? So if your worldview of human beings is that they're all awful, you're going to try to overcome suffering, right? Your design is still the same, right? You still want to be happy, you want to overcome suffering, and you don't have free will because if you had free will, you would do something different, but here you are. Here you are, as in you are operating off of things that you know. And that's pretty much it, baby, because you don't know much, right? In your vector, in your specific physical outward expression in this world. In your conscious awareness, what do you know, right? Like something is over in the distance right here, like this computer. You can't see the back of the computer. At the same time, there are always things that you will not know. There are always things that you don't know. So you're only going to be operating off of what's in your awareness. When something else gets placed into your awareness, now you're changed, right? You didn't choose that. The world chose it. The world chose. It's almost like we saw ourselves for a while in the Western culture, right? It's like when the West started getting big, it's like we see ourselves as like this thing, this unit in the world. And it's an open world. We're just like, like on a planet, on a world, and here, the world is your oyster. Go grab everything you want. Right? That's kind of like how we viewed it. So the idea of freedom now is just like the freedom to like get what you want. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Everything in the world. Have everything you want. I mean, let's try to ignore the fact that that's impossible, right? Let's try to ignore the fact that you can't have all things at once because you are just this one limited temporal vessel. Even if you wanted the entire universe all at once, it wouldn't fit around you. You cannot do that. You know what I'm saying? But that's the world we live in the West. It's like, yo, you're this thing. You deserve to have it all. Like, what do you mean? You can't have it all. You literally can't live in 2 houses at once. So it's like, you got a house, right? So it's like, what do you mean? You can't have all of it, you know? Just literally because you are in this physical flesh thing. So you can't like exist in all the houses that you want at the same time, right? We have this like misconception in the West. I mean, in the whole world now, because like, you know, We'll talk about that in the future. But the world follows in the footsteps of people who are doing successful, right? So the world right now, we're looking at each other to try to define what our experience is, and the whole world is like, yo, you are this thing that's on this planet. You're just like, meh. They place you on a planet, and then they're like, yeah, you have free reign over all this. They're like, that's the and that was the line of thinking that we had for such a long time, right? It's like, here, have it all. No wonder people are so sad, you know? As we just talked about with our spoilers, we got spoiler number one. People want to overcome suffering deep down. That's what we're looking for. That's what we are attracted to. That's what we learn from, is how to overcome suffering. That's one of the reasons why getting rich quick schemes never work, right? Why winning the lottery, people tend to throw that crap away. They throw all that money away. Why? Because they have not learned how to overcome suffering to a point to gain that value, to gain that money. They didn't earn it. They didn't learn how to overcome the kinds of suffering that cause you to get to that point. They overcame suffering enough to cause them to buy a ticket, which is like $2, maybe, or whatever you want, $20, now, whatever you want, whatever. But it is an inconsistent game of play with the actual maintaining of money. Spoiler number one. People want to overcome suffering. Spoiler number two. People want to be happy. And spoiler number three. You do not. You do not really have free will. You got awareness, though, which is amazing. You can place your awareness on different things and then watch your body go. So how do we fix ourselves? Well, we orient ourselves properly so that our body can just autopilot and play the right game. It's like by us thinking that we're this thing on this like flat planet or something, flat earthers, or this planet, right, where you're just like, the world is yours, human being, go grab everything you want. And anybody who stops you from doing that is an oppressor. That's bad, right? Maybe from that worldview, but that's not an accurate worldview, as you're not just placed onto this world and then now you can do whatever you want. You're not just placed on this world, because as soon as you're placed on this world, you're taken care of. You don't just plop on Earth. Hey guys, what's up, guys? You're taken care of immediately. You don't just plop on this world, now everything's yours, but rather you're taken care of, which means you gotta pay that back now. As in, that's why we're always thinking about like all the things that bother us, you know? Because we're trying to overcome the suffering. It's not so much so that you landed on this place and you have like these infinite, like godlike powers and you can have everything in the world. That's what they wanted you to think. But the problem is that that clashes with the actual physical reality. It may be true that you are the center of your world, of the inside world. You are the center of the universe. You deserve all things because you're a human being. It may be true. It may be true that all those things are the case, but in the physical realm, it clashes, because although it is true on the inside realm that is how your body and soul operate, on the physical realm, we want to match our inside realm with the physical realm so that we can find that nice balance and autopilot in the physical realm. Should we get our wires crossed and think that the physical realm is something else, as we operate on autopilot for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years, you are possibly going down a path that will lead to more tension in the body, feeling unable to feel the front of the spine, into the rainbow arches. You're doing all these things that are not consistent with the outside game, right? As you're spending 5, 10, 15, 20 years imagining that you are this thing on the world where it's like, bam, you pop there, you deserve everything. You are a god already. You do not need to experience suffering. In fact, suffering is the greatest evil of all. And anything that causes you to suffer or not give you what you want should be eradicated. And that is a wrong. And, you know, all these kinds of things. Problem is that that doesn't actually jive with the actual reality of the world. Spoilers. In reality, suffering is not the root of all evil. In fact, suffering is just the nature of human beings. When they come out the womb, they're already suffering. That's how you can tell one thing from the other is suffering. They're going to go into all this sadness, this emotional sadness of like, okay, suffering is bad. Suffering is bad. It's not bad. It allows you to see certain things. It allows you to know what to do rather than what not to do. And why would you want to do certain things and not other things? Well, maybe because you have a fleshy body that has great ideas and spirituality that you want to keep going. And so to keep going and keep getting what you want, you have to do certain things and not do other things. And how do you find out what to do? How do you find out all those things? Spoilers, suffering. You have to know what to do. How do you know? Spoilers, suffering, as in the overcoming of suffering. You crazy goose, you godlike creature, you lovely creature, you. I love you, as in I don't judge you ever. So that we can, and how do we do that? Well, we'll place the weight of the body on the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. Are you judging me? I don't have time to judge you, man. I'm feeling the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. Remembering that I do not sit on my legs. Are you feeling the front of the shins today? I want to take a small break. We're going to take a small break. We're going to go ahead and feel the weight of the body on the front of the spine into the rainbow arches at all times. And I invite you to listen for 7 different things in the room today with me right now. I want to give a shout out to Secret Skin. Thank you for the lurk. I appreciate you, dog. We love that around here. We're just trying to spread the message. Also, we're always welcome to this lurking stuff. We're going to be in the mornings. Thank you for joining, even though we're having an afternoon session. We're getting there, though. It's going to be fantastic. Imagine every morning we get to feel the weight of the body in the front of the spine into the rainbow arches at all times. Imagine you get to feel the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. And then remember that you do not sit on your legs. Are you feeling the front of the shins? Remember to let my words, to let my voice go in one ear, not the other. Are you listening for 7 different things, allowing your awareness to shift? Exciting those muscles around your ears. Exciting those muscles that are around the atlo-occipital joint, the AO joint, which is where your skull meets the spine, front of the spine. Are you exciting the muscles that press your skull onto your spine by listening for 7 different things? Allow my voice to go in one ear and out the other. Is that a car outside? There's birds up? Where are you right now? Are you in your room? As you're feeling the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Feel the front of the shins, and remember you do not sit on your legs at all. Nope, but you place your weight onto the sit bones. And now I invite you to listen for 7 different things with me. Maybe you're listening to your hair waft into the air, shake against and scratch against the back of your neck. Maybe you're listening to the cord of your earphones rub against your hand. I invite you to listen to something outside the room you're in. What would that be like? What does your body feel like when you listen for something outside the room? Are those airplanes? Remember, you do not sit on your legs as you're shifting your hearing awareness to maybe the beeping in your car, maybe the rustling in your keys. Remember, you don't sit on your legs as you listen for those. How does your body feel? Maybe try listening for your heart. Whatever it is, I hope that you are feeling the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. We'll be back in about 1 minute. Be a small break. Allow yourself to feel the weight of the body down the front of the spine into the rainbow arches at all the times. And then remember that you do not sit on your legs as you're feeling the fronts of thy shins. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Using our sense of the world to make sense of the world. Achieving world peace through individual strength. This is your only no-nonsense network, your best feeling network. Welcome back to Pao Go On. I hope that you had a fantastic break. I hope that you were able to feel the front of the shins. Remember, you do not sit on your legs. And deliver weight down to the front of your spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Spoilers! What are spoilers? Spoilers in life. As in, contrary to popular belief, we're actually looking for how to do this thing out here. Why? We just came back from the 90s, guys. We just ran here from the 90s, guys, and they told us that, and they told us that life, they told us about life. They said that you just want to do anything. You should do anything you want to do. That's what you want to do in life. That's what will lead you to a happy life. Just do everything you want. I just came back from the 90s, guys. That's what they told me. And we're like, no, stupid. You want to be told what to do because the human spirit is amazing. The human capabilities are amazing. Mind-blowing, life-changing. You're capable of doing amazing things, you godlike creature, you. But what do? All this potential. But what do you do with it? All this potential to overcome suffering at any point in time, and that's what we want. What do you do with all that? What do you do? What do you do with all this potential? This amazing stuff. We want to be told what to do. It's scary, knowing that you have all this power to create and destroy. What if you accidentally destroy yourself? We want to be told what to do. Not in the sense as, hey, this is how you do it, but rather guide of like, hey, other people have done this before, and they're not going to do it the way you do it, ever. But here are some rules that might help you on your way, might help you on your path, some guidelines. Some guidelines for thee, so that you don't shoot yourself in the knee. It's like an arrow to the knee. So what are these things? Mother would always say, there's no book on parenting. If there was, I would be a perfect parent. You know, please don't get upset with me. Blah, 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 blah. Rule number 1. People want to overcome suffering. And that's just their thing. That's what we look for. Not these outward expressions of it. Oh, they have a great podcast. Oh, they have a lot of friends. Oh, they have a lot of money. Oh, they're huge. Oh, they're small. Oh, they're pretty. Oh, they're handsome. But why do you want any of those things? I mean, if you're looking very on the outward, if you're looking very much on the physical level of it, you can say, oh, I like a car because it's nice looking. Oh, I like a guy because he has money. But what do those things mean? They imply that these persons can overcome suffering. In fact, when you're out there wondering why all these people have all these cool friends and why you don't, look at them. They're making all these mistakes. Look at them. They're actually an asshole. I mean, sorry, my butthole. Excuse my French. Look at them. They're actually a jerk. Or look at them. They actually don't have money. Amongst combining all these things, how come this person has all these friends? How come they have all this success? How come they blah blah blah? How come, you know, all this stuff that you hear in your head as you're getting older with the improper framing in mind, right? How come they get all this? How come I say the same joke? How come I don't get the same friends? Well, do you sound like you're suffering when you told the joke, or do you sound like you were overcoming suffering when you told the joke? You sound like it was painful for you to tell the joke, like you're scared of the reaction. It's not going to be funny. People are more concerned about your well-being, your survival at that point, right? We were talking last episode. Better than sex. Was that the last episode? Better than sex? we're talking about the last episode about how the emotionalism stuff is more about survival at that point. When you see someone, they're telling a joke because they're trying to be whatever, you know, we all want to be there. We all want to be the one telling the jokes and getting all the laughs. So when you see someone telling that joke and it flops and this and I'm that person and I'm like, dude, how come when they say it, it's funny? How come when I say it, it sucks? Well, because you're hyper focusing on just the outward physical thing, that shallow tangible thing, right? Of the joke, of the words of the joke. Instead of properly framing it within these spoilers, right? The fact that we are overcoming we want to overcome suffering first and foremost. So what's the point of a joke? To get you sex? To get you friends? No. As in the joke, what makes a joke funny is that it's you're overcoming suffering. Blah, blah, blah. Many reasons for jokes. Don't get on my ass about it. You know what I mean. I love you. But you know what I mean. We're looking for ways to overcome suffering. So as you're telling this joke, spoiler, were you overcoming suffering? Were you able to? Or did it make you suffer more? You're like, oh no, they're not laughing. Overcoming suffering. Spoiler number 1. What are the things that we need to know in the world so that I can orient my godlike experience? Because I know I'm a god, but I don't know what to do. All this power, I keep messing myself up. I keep screwing my own life up. Reorient that worldview, my friend. Listen to Senpai. Let's go through some spoilers. Spoiler number 1. All human beings are just looking to overcome suffering. That's what we actually value, baby. The act of overcoming suffering and how to do it. Not even the state that you're in after you overcome. No wonder marriages die. You're just in a state which is counter the human design. The human design is that we are movers. We are always moving. Even when you're sleeping, you're moving, right? As gravity is affecting your body, you're placing the weight on the body in the front of the spine. How does that happen? Because it's your weight of the body is constantly moving, right? Down. If the weight of the body was not moving, if your body was not moving at all times, not just from the gravity, but even within itself, right? The muscles are always pushing and pulling as you're breathing. If your body wasn't always moving, then this ability to feel the weight of the body would be impossible. You wouldn't be able to feel a weight of the body because there wouldn't be movement. You need movement to understand weight, gravity, right? So all things are friggin' moving. All things are friggin' moving. So right. We're always moving, right? So what is that about? How does it align with the fact that we're always moving, that we're always looking for overcoming conflict, we're always looking for overcoming suffering? Well, because we're talking about the act of overcoming, right? That's spoiler number 1, is that we're looking for the act of overcoming, right? So it's not even just the state that your body is in when it places the weight of the body on front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times, but it's the continuous motion of constantly placing your weight of the body down the front of the spine, constantly dealing with the suffering of not doing, constantly dealing with the conflict of your body going somewhere else. You have to readjust it because when you're in that new position, doesn't the adjustment to a center have to be different again because you're in a new position, so it looks different again. So in that new position, how does your body feel if you're placing weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times? And then in that position that you're in, well, now, where does your spine feel? It might feel different, right? Because your body's orienting differently within itself. It's reorganizing within itself. So your spine relative to your skull might be in a different place as your weight of your body is delivered into the proper places. So it's a constant struggle, constant suffering, a constant game conflict to overcome. Why are games so fun? Why are watching soccer games so fun? Well, doesn't that emulate the actual nature of human beings? Of overcoming suffering constantly. The ball's here, you got to get higher than the other team. You're constantly overcoming suffering. You're constantly overcoming suffering in like games. That's why sports are so big, and it'll always be big, right? And will always be big. These things in the world that we gravitate towards are the things that help us most in life, overcome suffering, right? Make us happy. We gravitate towards things that make us joyful. And what are those things? things that we respect as tools and teachers for overcoming suffering. Why sports are so exciting to watch, as it's just tickling the very nature of human beings constantly. Because we apply that to different things, overcoming suffering in emotional realm, overcoming suffering in physical aspect, overcoming suffering in the financial aspect, and then now in the kinesthetic aspect, as you might actually be having a hard time feeling the weight of the body on front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all times. I hope that is working better for you out there. I hope that you're feeling better as you're feeling the front of your shins. And I hope that you're feeling better out there as you remember that you do not sit on your legs. We're just looking for overcoming suffering. Right? What do we look for in life? What is life about? What are we attract? Why are we attracted to certain things? Why are we attracted to certain things and not other things? How come some movies suck and other movies don't suck? It might be something having to do with the people in charge of those things having their worldview properly or aligned. If your worldview is that people value money and not the overcoming of suffering, as in the overcoming and the overcoming of self problems, discipline, social skills, hard skills, to achieve the money which reduces suffering. So if you're valuing the money and you're making a movie off of this and you're trying to tell a story around money, well, how much is it going to resonate with the viewers, which are human, if the message that you are using as the premise for your movie is not reflective of the human experience? How are they going to relate more than just money and then projecting their own ideas of what that means? No, no, no. Look deeper. Look deeper, my friend. Look deeper. We must look at the things that help us get the money. We must look at the overcoming of suffering, the overcoming of personal issues, inside world issues that allowed them to get the necessary strength and wisdom and allow them to get the necessary connections and speak to people properly and make the necessary proper decisions for themselves to eventually make all that moolah, all that money, right? Make a movie about the money itself, it falls flat. You make a movie about the overcoming of suffering and then they get wealth. You got something on your hands. Why? Because it matches the human language. We understand that language. That is the only language that we speak. Overcoming conflict. Why is it the only language we speak? Because every other thing is useless and boring to us. Every other value is useless and boring to us other than overcoming suffering because because that is the lowest common denominator across all things. So why would I waste my time learning more about other ways of looking at food that aren't consistent with the one that's going to keep reasserting itself over and over and over? That, look, hey, here's this thing. You're gonna encounter suffering. How do you deal with it? It's the most generic umbrella that we can possibly do, and that's the way the universe works, so that everything fits under there. So you're only learning one language, and so it's easier to speak to the universe and everything like that. Yourself, the universe, other people. And what I mean by the universe is just things you want to do, like you want to see people happy, if you want to make a company, if you want to cook great food, whatever you want to do, you find the overarching umbrella, the common language between all of that, so you can just work on that and not have to shift your focus on every new thing that you do, whether that be cooking or we're going to go to like an anime expo. So you got to like reorient your entire spirit and personality based on that because like you like anime and you got to go over to your family, blow up your mind again and try to change something new. And like try to value new things of like, oh, okay, when I'm with my family, I value like sharing the food with grandma, even though it's not always her turn to eat the food or something. And that's just like what I value. It's like, okay, how are you going to transfer that to Anime Expo? How are you going to transfer that kind of wisdom, quote unquote, to your prowess for skydiving? You can apply some things, but the deeper we go, the better tool we'll have to apply to different things. So you're not trying to learn skydiving and then you have to erase all that crap when you go to your mama's house because you got to act a certain way. No, there's an underlying denominator between all those experiences, as in you are at the focal point at all those situations. So you want to overcome suffering in all those situations. Very nice and big fat algorithm that you can stuff the universe into. And then the rest of the world follows suit. Why does that person have all these girls and all these boys hanging out with him? Why is he so cool? He has all these flaws. He has all of these freckles that I don't like. He has weird hair. He has a scar on his face. I don't have any of those things, but I don't have all those great friends. Why is that? Well, because this dude had all those things and he's still happy. Look at him. He still overcame it somehow in his inner world. He still adjusted his worldview properly enough so that he could overcome the suffering that you might imagine he feels by having all those things. And such people who also have flaws will flock to this guy to be like, wow, that's awesome. I have flaws that I want to overcome too. Let's hang out with that dude. As opposed to being like, yeah, hey guys, look, I got no flaws. I'm perfect. All right, well, when people hang out with you, they're like, he's cool and he's handsome and like he's really good at everything. But like when shit hits the fan, I don't know if he's going to be able to handle it. Shoot hits the fan. Excuse my French. When shoot hits the fan, I don't know if he can handle it because I've never seen him with any imperfections. How do I know that that he can deal with imperfection and conflict and suffering? You might be able to. You might be able to. But if we are focused on the idea that people care about perfection and the outward expressions of perfection and stuff like that, and not the overcoming of suffering to get there, you'll be confused. You will be confused. Confused. Because we were thinking like, hey, people value money, people value this, people value that, blah, 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 blah. No, spoiler number one. What people value is the overcoming of suffering. That's what we want to learn about. That's what's sexy to us. That's what wisdom is. Overcoming suffering. A slight difference, a slight shift of perspective of the same coin of the complete opposite idea of being in this world where it's like, wow, you live in this world. You deserve all. You should go out and you should earn all. You should gather everything in the world into your arms. You deserve it all. This whole world is yours. You simply need to go attain it. But that's not true. It's not aligned with the reality. The reality is that when you're in this world, suffering is actually the suffering is actually the baseline. Suffering is the neutral. The neutral is not neutral. The neutral is not happy. The neutral is not at peace. The neutral of human beings is not at peace. The neutral of human beings is not happiness. It's not joy. It's not having things given to you. The neutral of human beings is suffering. Now, is that a sad thing? Hell no, it's not a sad thing. Get it out your mind that it's a sad thing. It's just the nature of it. The baseline is suffering. And that actually is a good thing because it allows you to see what you care about. It allows you to see yourself, this suffering thing, because it's happening to you. The baseline is not happy green plains that let's climb all the trees. That is not the baseline. The baseline is suffering. Wow, you come out the womb, you're crying. And if you don't have parents, you're dying. As in, if your parents, like, if you're in the caveman days and like you pop out, you better hope there's no lion out there. But if you could handle that lion, overcoming suffering again, right? If you could learn how to overcome that lion, then wouldn't that bring you to peace? Right? Isn't that happiness thing, that joy stuff is like overcoming suffering? As it is the universal thing. Think about that. It's like the universal thing, this suffering thing. So if it's always around you, if you can find one way to overcome all that suffering, then you could always be happy because you'd always be suffering and you'd always be overcoming that suffering. If suffering is the coal to make the fire of happiness and peace, isn't it great that it's always around you? Isn't it great that suffering is always there? As long as we have a way to overcome it, and that's what we're looking for, right? Spoiler number one, looking for a way to overcome this suffering. Spoiler number two, we're looking for a way to be happy. Three, you don't actually have all this free will that you, as you place the weight of the body in front of the spine, into the rainbow arches at all of the times. You do have that godly creature choice, and that godly creature you do have your awareness that you have, it seems to be some free reign over. But you only know what you know, right? If they knew better, they could do better. Should we do spoiler number 4? Should we do spoiler number 4? Men and women are not in competition with one another. Bam! Spoiler number 4. Men and women are not in competition with one another. What do I mean by that? Well, don't we currently live in a world where men and women are constantly being bouted against one another, being bashed against one another? Women need to make more money than men, or at least the same amount. Men need to have more partners than women. It's bad for, there's all these comparisons, mainly because sex is still seen as the paramount way of overcoming suffering, right? Sex is still seen as the best. It's seen as the penultimate overcoming of suffering. Best feeling in the world. We gauge it. We all relate it and gauge it in relationship to this sex thing. But men and women are not in competition, despite that idea making it feel like they should be. You got all these people being like, women's, you got the internets right now, right? Women's need lower amounts of partners because scientifically marriages are declining. And why are marriage success rates declining? Because women are having more partners, and scientifically we see that they are more bound to be polygamous. They do monogamy, blah, blah, blah. And then men don't want to be aggressed on by their wife, and men have to do this, and we have to pay for the bill, and the least the women could do is not get upset. There's just we live in this boring world where everything is just constantly sex dynamics. Boring. Why? Because we all have this inner connection with this godlike thing, you godlike creature, you. As we're focusing on this like thin, desperate claw at feeling it through a foggy glass through someone else, we have it right behind us and we haven't been looking. Men and women are facing the same direction, as in they're both facing the direction of wanting to overcome suffering. The sex thing ruts its ugly head out because why? It overcomes suffering in a few ways. The sex thing. Immediately, right? Feels good. 2, give you a child, which can help you with suffering in the future as you get older. 3, you get to closer and possibly closest to somebody. Right? That's the things with sex. Up in front of the spine. Place the weight of the body down in front of the spine. It's the rainbow arches at all times. But using sex, we're always looking at this sex thing because of all those things, right? It feels good. Gets you closer to these people, and you want to be with those people because it helps you overcome suffering. It feels good. You can get a baby, which can help you overcome suffering. And if you're with this partner, presumably, you feel like they can help you overcome suffering. So sex overcomes suffering not just through feeling, but also through implication that if they stay with you through the sex, which they probably will because sex feels so great, right? That's like the idea behind it. The implication is that should you be a young lady, a young pretty lady like myself, and then you find a nice strong man, the sex thing not only overcomes suffering of the moment, but also are you not protected should they stay with you? Is that not the implication? Is that not the implication? Men and women are not in competition with men and women are not in competition with one another unless sex is seen as the utmost high. Then it certainly will, because a man's sexual pleasure highly depends on his esteem for the woman, how he feels about the woman, his total ego attached to that. Am I intimate with something that I like so much? Is it going to satisfy me? I deserve it, right? So if sex is seen as the highest currency, the only thing that really, 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 really deep down matters to a lot of people, then men and women will continue to be in competition with one another, and men and women will continue hating each other. You'll constantly see women with men that you think are awful pairs with them. You'll constantly see men going for awful relationships, etc., etc. So long as the men and women are seen in competition with one another. But they're not in competition with one another. In fact, they're all looking in the same direction. Men and women are looking in the same direction. They're all looking to overcome suffering. They're all looking towards the inside. We're all facing the same direction, actually. It's like if you saw a man and woman, in today's society, we see it like this. Man, woman, facing each other all the time. Hey, I want the best woman I can have. Hey, I want the best man that I can have. Hey, we're both imperfect, so we're going to try to hide our imperfections from each other all day so that we can pretend that like we really think that we're the best match for each other. And then you get this brittle men and women competition thing, as opposed to the idea of like, hey, men and women are actually facing the same direction, as in they're both facing wanting to overcome suffering. They're both facing the idea of looking to overcome suffering. They're both facing the idea of searching for the feeling of feeling the front of the spine, and the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Remember, you do not sit on your legs as you're feeling the front of your shins. An internal feeling that does not require somebody else. Feeling better than sex does not require anybody else, but rather is latent within you and is always within you. So since it's in you, you're also surrounded by it. You're one and the same. You want a stronger connection with that, as it allows you the ability to overcome. Is it not overcoming itself as you're placing the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all of the times? And then remembering that you do not sit on your legs, feel the front of your shins. Please do not make me say it again, or maybe make me say it again. I wouldn't mind. Men and women are both looking at that. Using each other for a while, as it kind of gets the similar feeling, reaches a similar chord. Sex thing, looking at each other. So we start looking at each other as gods, right? Women are looking at the man like, wow, you're a god because you got to protect me somehow as I'm holding your child. The man's like, oh my God, you're a god because like you give me this feeling. Not to revere each other because we're revering the outward expression of these things, the fact that these people gave us those feelings, but not the attainment of those feelings as itself. Men and women are both looking for a way for their body to feel like a god. Men and women are both looking for a way to make their own experience, their own kinesthetic experience, amazing. Sex has a great way of hijacking that purpose, as we're looking for a way to feel amazing. And sex, for a while, will make you feel amazing, despite how hard everything is on the outside. No pun intended. Getting it, the part after, the guilt if you did it wrong, the comparison that if it was really good, all these kinds of things that come along with sex. But we're looking for something better than sex. Men and women both are. Sex is going to hijack our desire to want to feel like godly on the inside, feel amazing. Sex is going to hijack that motivation for human beings. But what we're looking for is feeling the weight of the body down the front of the spine and into the rainbow arches at all the times. Are you feeling the front of your shins? Don't make me say it again. And then remember that you do not sit on your legs, my friend. You do not sit on your legs, my friend. Spoiler number 1. We're just looking for a way to overcome suffering. Not just the state of overcoming suffering afterwards, but the overcoming of suffering. The act of it, and how to go about it. Big sports. Spoiler number 2. We all just want to be happy. Spoiler number 3. We don't really have that much free will. Spoiler number 4. Men and women are not in competition with one another. In fact, they pretty much can go along ignoring one another. Men and women could probably just go their whole life ignoring one another if they could. They probably would like that, so they're not freaking addicted to this sex thing or the implications of what sex brings. No, men and women are just looking for a way to feel great all the time, which sex hijacks. But men and women are not in competition with one another. I'd be looking at the world like, why is it this way? Well, maybe because you're looking at men and women being in competition with one another. Spoiler number 1. we all want the act of overcoming suffering. Want to learn about that. Spoiler number 2, want to be happy. Spoiler number 3, you don't really have free will. Spoiler number 4, men and women are not in competition with one another. I love you. Our sense of the world to make sense of the world, achieving achieving world peace through individual strength. Your No Nonsense Podcast, the best feeling network. This has been Herbie. It is June 21, that's a Monday, 2021, and this has been Pal Go On. Take it easy, guys.